So going back to the very beginning, my dad actually bought me my first pony when I think it was before I could walk. I must have only been barely 2 years old. Her name was Copper, and she was a one-eyed 32-year-old quarter horse that came with all of her tack for $500. Pay attention to every opportunity. There is opportunity behind every door. You never know who you're talking to, and it's so important to treat everybody and every horse equally because we have something to learn from everyone, including the horses. So I am so lucky to have recently partnered with Summit Farm. My sponsor, Jerry Ibanez, is the owner of the farm. That's about an hour from here in Marietta, California. I have a very great string of horses right now. One I'm sure that everybody's heard of is First Apple, who's a 9-year-old stallion who I am competing in the small tour with the hopes to be on the Pan American team this year. And I also have a group of up-and-coming young horses from 4-year-olds all the way through to small tour and Grand Prix horses that will hopefully support my dreams as I move forward in trying to represent the U.S. Internationally.
I met Sarah when she just started out on her new business. She called us to come and do some saddle fittings for her. And I just loved working with her. We sold saddles at her barn. She was wonderful to work with, had great horses. She was just starting her career. At the time, I think you were showing Winterpole,
yeah.
and just starting off on her own, and she was such a delight. And I said, I'd really like you. We're in the process of developing a saddle, and I'd love to have you as a sponsored rider. And things got delayed for research and development reasons, and I said, please wait for me, please wait. And she did, and she was my very first sponsored rider, and I'm still love her.
Aww.
And I'm so happy to have her on our N2 team. It's fantastic.
I have an N2 original. From a very young age, my very first trainer, her name was Susie Quillen, and that lady taught me really how to be a horseman. And I started off as a Western rider with her, and she actually made the transition with me to English, and I did some hunter jumpers and then eventing. One of my main dressage influences came really early with Shelley Edwards, and she put me on a bunch of her horses and really taught me what it meant to feel. And so she was probably a very big influencer. And then my biggest influence in the eventing was Christy Nunnick. And Christy Nunnick taught me how to be a really brave rider and taught me everything I needed to know about eventing. And I've been really lucky since then to be influenced by a lot of top dressage professionals, and over the last 4 or 5 years, and currently my coach Scott Hassler, who has been by my side from the beginning and believes in me and is really teaching me to be one of those top tier riders.
Well, I've worked with Sarah for several years now. I kind of saw her for the first time in the developing program when I was the developing coach. And she actually came up and trained with me for, what was that, a month? A month or 2 months. And we have lots of stories about that time. And then, but I've always thought she's a very, very strong rider in the fact that she's consistent, she has a great feel, and I was always hoping that a horse like this would come along in her career.
So Apple and we're just a very new partnership, and I found him completely by chance. We weren't looking at the time, but from the moment I sat on that horse, he was mine, and it actually brought tears to my eyes because it's the most incredible feeling. And he's such a gentleman. He's a super worker, great work ethic, and he really tries really hard. Has never ever said no. I feel really fortunate to have such a talented horse with a great temperament as well.
Cool. What's his breeding?
His breeding is Vivaldi Part 2. So right now I have quite a few exciting horses coming up in the rankings. One is my 7-year-old mare, Belia, and we purchased her last year, and she was very successful in the young horse classes as a 6-year-old and made it to championships and shows super promise as a Grand Prix horse. So look for her coming out in the small tour soon. I also have an 8-year-old horse that I own myself, De Havilland. He is also very talented as a young horse, and I've been bringing him along carefully, and he will also hopefully debut in the small tour this winter. I have a 10-year-old that I actually purchased as a 5-year-old that will be showing Grand Prix this year, and he is one of the models for N2. You can see his gray butt all over the trailer. I have a Super Frisian that is Jerry and Mai's pride and joy, who will be competing I1 this year, and I have a really talented 5-year-old Jazz Gelding that was very successful in the 4-year-old Young Horse Championships this last year, and he'll be coming out in the young horse classes this winter. Yes, I think in my experience in the past, just being able to sit on so many horses, so many types, and so many breeds, to be honest with you, it really gives me an edge, not just in my professional riding, but really in the sales. I have been very lucky to have a really successful sales business, and I feel like my past experience allows me to sit on a horse and evaluate it very quickly. And there's a few telltale signs that horses will always give you, and it's definitely a leg up. I always listen to music. I have this called my quiet time. It's about an hour before my ride time, and my grooms and my team know that that's the time you just leave Sarah alone, and I always have my earphones in, and I hate to admit, but I'm listening to some crazy rap music. 3 words that describe Sarah Lockman are, I would say, ambitious, hardworking, and happy. I secretly wish I was a model, and I've been really lucky to have some opportunities to help showcase some companies and clothing lines, and I think that's fun. I mean, what girl doesn't like to have her hair and makeup done and have pretty pictures? Nobody should know I'm a horse trainer. So yes, the nails are done and the hair gets done, and I try not to look too dirty at the end of the day. I could completely be the new glam girl of dressage, fashion forward for sure. So if you had to eat one type of food for the rest of your life, what would it be? So my answer is peanut butter and jelly. That is my absolute favorite food, is peanut butter and jelly. Super high end, I know. My favorite color is purple. The most important thing in my life right now is my career, as horrible as that might sound, and then definitely after that is my family. So my next sister to me, her name is Bridget, and she is a horse trainer up in northern Nevada in Reno. The next youngest sister is Angela, and she is a groom and barn manager and assistant trainer for a dressage barn down here in Southern California. And my youngest brother, Alex, spends part-time, he has a normal job, and the other part of the time he's a horseshoer. So we are definitely a horsey family. I'd say the first one would have had to be, my first horse. And I actually remember I must have been 4 or 5 years old, and we were not allowed to go get on the horses without parental guidance at that time. And I remember my mom and dad were busy, and I snuck out to the barn, and my horse Copper was laying down, and I crawled up on her when she was laying down, and my parents couldn't find me, and I actually couldn't get off. So I was still outside on the horse when they finally came to find me. So I would have to say that was one of them, and probably as kind of lame as I guess it sounds, we had many trips as a family going out on the trail. My whole family rides, so we would take I'm one of 4, so we would take 6 horses up in the mountains, and we'd go take the horses swimming and tie them to a tree and camp overnight. And so I think those are all my favorite memories. Again, everything to do with the horses.